All right, everyone, buckle up because today we are going diving deep into something we all know and love and maybe have a little bit too much stuff.
Way too much stuff.
Exactly. We'll be looking at a list from the top10s.com. It's called Top 10 Household Objects You Probably Have Too Many of. But we're going to do what we do best here. We're going to go deeper.
Absolutely. Look beyond just the surface. I think it's going to be fascinating to see what these objects say about us, our habits and values, even anxieties.
Okay, so the very first thing on this list, DVDs. Now, even I was surprised, am I dating myself? Are there a lot of people still holding on to these? I mean, it's the age of streaming, so
Sure.
what's the deal?
Well, I think for a lot of people, it's that nostalgia factor, right? Like you hold that disc in your hand and you think about that movie night with friends or family. Or maybe it's that favorite movie you watched over and over again as a kid.
Yeah, it's funny how physical objects can be like these little time capsules. They hold memories in a way that digital files just don't.
You're absolutely right. And, there's also a sense of control with a physical copy. Streaming. That movie can just disappear one day. Poof. Gone licensing agreements. You know how it is?
Yeah, and sometimes, let's be honest, the internet goes down, and on those nights, it's nice to have a shelf full of movies ready to go.
Absolutely. There's a certain reliability to physical media.
Okay, moving on to something a little less nostalgic, but equally relatable, plastic bags. We've all got that bag of bags stashed somewhere, am I right?
Oh, yeah, that infamous cupboard.
But why do we do this? Why do we hang on to them?
I think it's that just-in-case mentality. Like, you never know when you might need a plastic bag, right?
It's funny, it's like we're all secretly preparing for a plastic bag apocalypse.
Maybe.
But seriously, though,
Right.
I think it also reflects our consumer culture. We're constantly told to buy more, accumulate more.
That's true. It's like we've been conditioned to equate having more with being prepared or even secure.
And of course, we can't forget the environmental impacts, all those plastic bags ending up in landfills and the ocean.
It's a serious problem. A reminder that our choices, even small ones, have consequences.
Okay, enough doom and gloom. Let's move on to something a little lighter, clothes. I'm pretty sure everyone has that overstuffed closet that I have nothing to wear feeling, even though clothes are literally bursting out of the doors.
Oh, yeah, the classic closet conundrum. But it's so interesting the source even mentioned this. Some people feel like they never have enough clothes.
Really?
Yeah, and it's true. It depends on your lifestyle, how often you do laundry.
Yeah, I guess some people need a different outfit for every single occasion.
Exactly. And sometimes we just get stuck in a rut wearing the same few things over and over.
Maybe we need to do a deep dive on capsule wardrobes at some point.
That's a great idea.
All right, moving on to another kitchen conundrum. Food storage containers. You open the cupboard, and it's an avalanche of mismatched plastic.
Oh, yeah.
Is there any hope for taming this beast?
Well, I think it starts with realizing that not all containers are created equal. Those flimsy takeout containers might be fine for leftovers, but you'll want something more durable for freezing or longer-term storage.
I totally agree. But even with a good set of containers, there's always that missing lid mystery.
The eternal struggle.
It's like they disappear into another dimension.
But maybe there's a portal to a land of mismatched lids somewhere.
Okay, before we get lost in that vortex, let's move on to something a bit more sentimental. Childhood keepsakes. This is where things get a bit more complicated.
Absolutely. These aren't just objects, they're like pieces of our past.
I've got boxes of stuff from my childhood tucked away, old yearbooks, art projects, even that macaroni necklace I made in kindergarten.
That's so sweet.
I know it's hard to let go of those things.
But it's important to remember you don't have to keep everything focused on the things that truly spark joy, the ones that hold a special meaning.
That's good advice. It's about being selective, choosing the things that truly represent our past and who we are.
Exactly. It's about finding a balance between preserving memories and creating space for new experiences.
Okay, time for a quick shoe confession. I'm a running shoes kind of person, so I'll never understand those people with like 50 pairs of shoes.
Oh, I know what you mean. The source even mentions someone with more shoes than their family has feet.
More shoes than feet. That's dedication.
I guess so. But on a practical level, different shoes serve different purposes. You need something for work, something for the gym, something for a night out.
I see your point, but I still think there's a line between practicality and just having way too many.
It all comes down to personal preference and how those shoes fit into your life.
Fair enough. Speaking of things that can take over a room, books. I love books, but even I have to admit my shelves are starting to overflow.
It's a common problem for bookworms.
Is there such a thing as too many books?
That's a tough question. Books hold a special place in so many people's hearts.
They do.
It's not just about the information. It's the stories, the ideas, the escape they provide.
Yeah, they can transport you to different worlds.
Exactly. So I think the key is to be mindful about what you keep asking yourself. Have I read this book? Will I ever reread it? Does it hold a special meaning for me?
Those are good questions to ask because sometimes we hold on to books out of guilt or obligation, not because we actually enjoy them.
It's true. It's about being honest with yourself and making space for new literary adventures.
I love that, new literary adventures. Okay, back to the kitchen for another round of relatable chaos condiments and seasonings.
Oh yeah, that overstuffed spice rack that threatens to explode every time you open the door.
Exactly. Why do we accumulate so many flavors when we know we'll never use them all before they expire?
I think it's that desire to be a culinary adventurer. We get excited about trying new recipes,
Right.
but sometimes our ambitions outweigh our actual cooking habits.
I'm totally guilty of that. I'll buy some exotic spice for a recipe and then it just sits there for years.
It's like we're building a flavor library, but we only ever check out the same few books.
I like that analogy. Maybe it's time for a spice rack purge.
It's a good idea. You can always donate those unused spices to a local food bank.
Okay, speaking of things, we have way too many of coat hangers. Seriously, how do they multiply like that?
It's one of life's great mysteries.
I know they come with new clothes, they lurk in the backs of closets, they breed when we're not looking.
They're like the rabbits of the closet world.
Exactly, and it's not like they're hard to get rid of. You can donate them, recycle them.
It's true, but for some reason we hang on to them like they're precious commodities.
Maybe it's that sense of preparedness again. You never know when you might need 50 extra hangers.
That's a good point. Better to be over-prepared than under-prepared.
All right, last but not least, jewelry. I have to admit, I'm not a jewelry person, so I'm genuinely curious about the appeal.
Well, jewelry could be much more than just decoration.
Oh, how so?
It can hold sentimental value, cultural significance, even be a form of self-expression.
Okay, I'm listening.
Think about heirloom pieces passed down through generations, or a necklace given as a symbol of love.
I can see how those pieces would hold a special meaning.
And then there's the fashion aspect. Jewelry can complement an outfit, make a statement, convey your personal style.
So it's like wearing a piece of your personality.
Exactly. It's
Okay.
about using these small objects to tell a story about who you are and how you want to be seen in the world.
You're making me think about jewelry in a whole new way. It's not just about sparkle and shine. It's about symbolism and self-expression.
It's about adding a little bit of beauty and meaning to your everyday life.
I love that beauty and meaning. Well, we made it through the top 10.
We did.
But the list doesn't end. There are a bunch of other things that people tend to accumulate. Diaries, journals, even VHS tapes.
VHS tapes.
Yeah.
Wow, talk about a blast from the past.
I know. It's crazy to think that those were once the cutting edge of technology.
It really makes you wonder, what will future generations think about our smartphones and streaming devices?
I know, right? They'll probably be in a museum someday.
That's a funny thought.
And speaking of things that can take over our lives, holiday decorations, I think we all know someone who goes a little overboard with the Christmas lights and inflatables.
Oh yeah, the holiday decorating frenzy.
It's like an unspoken competition to see who can create the most festive display.
But I think there's also a genuine desire to spread joy and celebrate the season.
I agree. It's about creating those warm, fuzzy feelings and making memories with loved ones.
Exactly. It's about bringing a little bit of magic into our lives.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground today, but before we move on to the next part of our deep dive, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've learned so far. We started by exploring the top 10 household objects we tend to accumulate in excess, from DVDs and plastic bags to clothes and condiments. Then we delved into the psychology of too much stuff, discussing the emotional attachments, cultural norms, and even the influence of technology.
It's fascinating how these everyday objects can reveal so much about ourselves and our society.
It really is. So with those insights in mind, get ready to declutter your mind even further as we dive into the practical side of things in the next part of this deep dive.
Stay tuned. We'll be exploring strategies for decluttering, organizing, and creating a more mindful and fulfilling relationship with our belongings.
I can't wait. It's going to be a good one. Okay, so we've identified the usual suspects, the stuff we tend to accumulate, but now I'm really curious about the why. Why do we do this to ourselves? What's the psychology behind all this clutter?
Well, there's a whole field of study dedicated to it. Consumer psychology, it's fascinating, really delves into all those motivations and emotions and pressures that influence how we buy and keep things.
Okay, let's unpack that a little. I've always wondered about this whole idea of retail therapy, buying something to cheer yourself up. Is there any truth to that, or is it just a marketing ploy?
Actually, there's a neurological basis when we shop, especially for something. We really want our brains release dopamine, that feel-good chemical. So, yeah, there's a real sense of pleasure and reward tied to buying things.
So it's like a quick hit of happiness, but it doesn't always last, does it?
Exactly. That's the catch. It's a temporary fix. It might mask the underlying issue, stress, anxiety, boredom, but it doesn't actually address the root cause.
So it's like putting a Band-Aid on a broken leg.
Pretty much. And just like a Band-Aid, the relief is fleeting, the problem's still there, and we might find ourselves shopping again just to feel better.
Which makes me think about all the advertising we're bombarded with, constantly telling us we need the latest gadgets, the trendiest clothes, the most luxurious vacations.
Oh, absolutely. Advertisers are masters at tapping into our desires and insecurities. They create this sense of lack, like we're not good enough without this product or that service.
It's like they're playing on our FOMO, fear of missing out. If everyone else has the new iPhone, suddenly we feel like we need it too, even if our old phone works perfectly fine.
That's exactly it, creating that sense of urgency. And they're good at it, using images, language, even music, to trigger those emotional responses.
So how do we break free? How do we become more conscious consumers and make decisions that align with our values, not just our impulses?
Awareness is key. Recognize that those marketing messages are designed to influence you, not necessarily to help you pay attention to how they make you feel. Do they make you anxious? Inadequate? Recognizing those emotional triggers can help you detach from their power.
Okay, so it's about being mindful, not letting those tactics control our spending habits.
Exactly. It's about reclaiming our power as consumers, making choices that are good for us, not just good for the advertisers.
So we talked about individual psychology, but what about cultural norms? How do those play into our tendency to accumulate stuff? Is this a global keeping up with the Joneses kind of thing?
It definitely plays a role. Cultural norms shape our attitudes towards possessions. What we see as essential or excessive in some cultures, material wealth is a big marker of success and status.
So it's not just about having enough, it's about having more than others.
Sometimes, yes, it can become a competitive thing,
Right.
wanting to outdo our neighbors or peers.
Which can be a never-ending cycle, right? There's always going to be someone with a bigger house or a fancier car.
That's why it's so important to define our own values. Measure success by our own standards, not external comparisons.
But it's not just societal pressure, right? There's got to be something deeper going on. Why do some people feel such a strong attachment to their stuff, even things with little monetary or practical value?
It's complex, but objects can hold a lot of sentimental value. They represent relationships, experiences, memories. They can bring a sense of comfort and familiarity.
Like my grandma's china set, it's not worth a lot of money, but it means a world to me. It reminds me of all those family dinners.
Exactly. And for some people, letting go of those objects feels like losing a part of themselves or their history.
So it's not about judging people, it's about understanding where they're coming from.
Exactly. It's about approaching decluttering with compassion, recognizing it's a very personal journey.
And a journey that changes over time, right?
Yeah.
What we value at 20 might be totally different at 50 or 70.
Absolutely. Our priorities shift, our attachments change. What felt essential might later feel burdensome.
It's like that saying, you can't take it with you.
Right. In the end, it's the experiences and relationships that truly matter, not the stuff.
So we've explored the psychology, the cultural influences. Now I'm ready to get practical. How do we actually declutter in a way that feels doable, empowering, maybe even a little fun?
That's the million-dollar question, and it's exactly what we're going to dive into next. We'll explore some proven strategies for decluttering, organizing, and creating a more mindful relationship with our stuff.
Can't wait. Bring on the decluttering wisdom. Okay, I'm ready. Let's talk strategy. We've exploring the, well, why? Now let's get to the how do we actually tackle this decluttering beast? Where do we even begin?
Well, it can feel overwhelming, right? You look around and it's like, where do I even start?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, do I need to rent a dumpster?
Well, maybe not that drastic. A good place to start is with the 4-box method. Grab some boxes, label them keep, donate, trash, and of course the ever-tempting maybe.
The maybe box.
Yeah.
That's where all the tough decisions go to hide.
It's the procrastination station. But here's the trick. Set a deadline. Tell yourself, if I haven't touched these things in a month, they're out of here.
I like that it's like giving those maybe items a trial period. Prove your worth or you're gone.
Exactly. And remember, decluttering doesn't have to be this massive, overwhelming project. You can break it down. Start small, a drawer, a shelf, a corner of a room.
Okay, that makes me feel better sometimes.
Yeah.
I think I need to declutter my entire house in one weekend, and then I just end up frozen with indecision.
Yeah, it's much better to chip away at it. Even 15 minutes a day can make a difference. Consistency over intensity.
I can get behind that. It's like those fitness apps that tell you to just do a few minutes of exercise each day.
It is. And like exercise decluttering can actually be quite energizing once you start letting go of stuff you don't need. You feel lighter and more free.
Okay, you've convinced me, but sentimentality, that's my weakness. How do you deal with those items that have emotional value but maybe not a lot of practical use? Childhood mementos, family heirlooms, things like that.
Those are tough. No doubt. Approach them with kindness. Ask yourself, does this item truly bring me joy? Does it represent a core memory or value I want to hold on to?
That's a good point. Sometimes I think I'm holding on to things out of guilt or obligation, not genuine joy.
It happens, but remember, you don't have to keep everything. You can honor those memories without keeping every single object.
So maybe it's about finding other ways to preserve those memories. Take a picture, write down the story behind it.
Exactly. Shift the focus from the object to the meaning it holds.
It's like Marie Kondo, but instead of just sparking joy, maybe it's about keeping things that align with our values, our memories, the life we want to create.
I love it's about being intentional, creating a home that reflects who you truly are.
Speaking of creating a home, I find that my decluttering efforts often get derailed by a lack of organization. I'll purge a bunch of stuff, but then I just end up with new piles of things I don't know what to do with.
Organization is key once you've decluttered. Create systems. Make it easy to find what you need and put things away. Invest in storage solutions, bins, baskets, shelves, or just designate a specific spot for each category of belongings.
So give everything a home. No more homeless objects wandering around.
Exactly. And like any good home, you need rules. Put things back where they belong. Don't let clutter pile up. Get everyone in the household on board.
It's like a chore chart for adults.
Pretty much. But the reward is a more peaceful and functional living space.
And the best part, once you're organized, it's so much easier to stay organized.
It is. It becomes a habit, a way of life.
So it's an ongoing process, making mindful choices about what we bring into our homes and how we care for the things we choose to keep.
Yes, it's about shifting from more is better to less is more. Realizing that true abundance isn't about how much stuff you have, but the richness of your life.
It's about creating space, isn't it? Space for the things that truly matter.
Absolutely. Space for experiences,
Yeah.
relationships, growth, joy.
Well said. So to all our listeners out there, we encourage you to embrace the power of decluttering. Start small, be patient, and remember, it's not about perfection, it's about progress.
And who knows, you might find that letting go of stuff actually brings you more happiness.
It's been a fascinating deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
Until next time.